This is the gospel of Jesus Christ according to Mark, the 9th chapter. Jesus and the disciples went on and passed through Galilee. He did not want anyone to know it, for he was teaching his disciples, saying to them, "The Son of Man is to be betrayed into human hands, and they will kill him. And 3 days after being killed, he will rise again." But they did not understand what he was saying, and were afraid to ask him. Then they came to Capernaum, and when he was in the house, he asked them, "What were you arguing about on the way?" But they were silent, for on the way they had argued with one another who was the greatest. He sat down, called the 12, and said to them, "Whoever wants to be first must be last and servant of all." Then he took a little child and put it among them. And taking it in his arms, he said to them, "Whoever welcomes one such child in my name welcomes me, and whoever welcomes me welcomes not me, but the one who sent me." This is the gospel of our Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. Whenever Jesus said, "Whoever welcomes one such as this welcomes me," he was challenging what was the contemporary social understanding of the value of children. But I think we often misunderstand what it was he was challenging. It's been preached so often and written in so many commentaries that we accept it almost as established fact that children in biblical times had no real value. We try and contrast our love for our children against a time that viewed them as worthless. And one that isn't fair to the people of that time that had a real compassion and care for their families. But also, I think in doing so, we miss some of the points, because our contemporary society often also ascribes the same wrong value to children, because children in biblical times were far from worthless. They were the promise of the covenant. To die childless was the worst imaginable curse. Children, descendants, were the promise of a legacy, the most highly coveted gift God could give you. Barring Ecclesiastes' challenge to the concept, children were widely regarded at the time as the promise that all of your hard work in life would not be wasted. It would be carried on by them after you were gone. And the disciples are caught comparing all of their works, arguing over who would be regarded as the greatest. Jesus sits a child among them and says, "Welcome this child now, and you welcome me. If you want to be first, you must be last, servant of all." And it's a far more nuanced flip of the relationship than simply going from worthless to highly cherished. Because we often hear the first must be last bit as a critique of the power-mad lust for wealth and status of the world. And that is indeed unholy. Jesus critiques it at many times. But Jesus here is addressing his faithful disciples, the 12, the inner circle, not Caesar or the high priest or even someone selling goods in the market. I don't imagine them thinking about that kind of prestigious greatness. I imagine they were arguing over who would be regarded as the greatest disciple or follower of Jesus, whose legacy would be carried on in the generations to come. When Jesus puts a child among them, they are looking quite literally at the next generation that they will task with carrying on that legacy, and Jesus flips that obligation and that understanding of what it is to serve the kingdom. This child does not determine your greatness by how they serve your legacy. When you welcome this child, you welcome me. If they are asking who is the greatest servant of Jesus, he is telling them that will be measured in how their lives serve those who will come after them. Our duty is to the generations that are to come, not to the ancestors that have gone before. Now let me clarify. I don't think Jesus meant, nor am I saying, that there is nothing to learn from our ancestors. It is right and holy to give honor to and be inspired in faith by the great cloud of witnesses that have gone before us. But too often, I see good and faithful people living in what is essentially a self-inflicted bondage to the carrying on of Grandma's legacy. And it's far beyond honoring her faithful witness or being inspired by her example or remembering the lessons she taught. It is coming to the brink of exhaustion to make sure that the Christmas party or the school fundraiser or the Sunday school class looks like the one she built. It's feeling like a failure because we know it doesn't. You see, it's welcoming children not as Jesus, whom we promised to serve, but as servants who will hopefully lift the burden from our shoulders that is too heavy for us to carry and place it upon their own backs. Friends, God's kingdom is coming, but it hasn't come yet. The next generation is always, by definition, one generation closer to its coming. Our duty of service is to welcome and assist them in the continued journey beyond where we could get. My children's duty is to the generation to come after them, not to me. It doesn't mean I don't think I have some wisdom to pass on. I hope to teach them, just as some of the members of the churches I serve have taught me in my generation. Life has put all of us in some difficult situations, and for the most part, we've managed to survive. We've learned a trick or two. And they were shared with me. When I listened, they helped me avoid some of the pitfalls of life, and I and my peers managed to find a few others. We'll find out what our children listen to and which lessons they learn the hard way. We don't have much control over that. It's part of the difficulty of it. In the words of the old Norwegian hymn, Morning Cry, we will watch our children wander off to find where demons dwell. That's difficult to watch. And part of our duty of service to the young is to warn them of all the places we found the demons. But if we don't let them wander, we're holding them captive to the way the world is, and it'll never get better. It's all we will ever see. Instead, those of us on the back half of our lives can welcome those still on the front nine. We can welcome them as explorers who will continue the journey beyond us, ambassadors of kingdom we have not seen, as reporters from beyond the next hill over which we will not crest. We can lay down the burden of carrying a legacy that is no longer fit for the leg of the journey we were on. If we were traveling around the world, we found ourselves at the Pacific, it would be ridiculous if we insisted that we stay in the car that got us there. Even if we remembered all the lessons we learned while driving to get there. Let us refuse to place the burden on our children of using the means we did. They're already out in the boat. They're sailing, and will find unforeseen challenges to navigate. If we find ourselves with the blessed opportunity to welcome a child at any time in life, it is not an opportunity to recruit stewards of the world as we built it. It is an opportunity to sit with Jesus Christ, and if we sit with Jesus Christ, we sit with our Father in heaven who wishes us even better than we could wish our own children. May we be blessed to do so.